Boom, live. All right. Welcome, episode 4 of the Uncommon Sense podcast. I am your host, Blake. Today with me, I have a very old friend. We went to CJEP together. We hung out a lot. He went away to the military. I went away to school. And recently found him not too long, a couple of years ago, fighting in a gym that I was training a couple of people at. Happy to be friends again and kind of reconnect. Military veteran, Mr. Jamaal Garner. How you doing, buddy?
Good, you, brother? Good.
Can't complain, dude. Can't complain. Doing the best we can. So today I just wanted to, today being Remembrance Day, November 11th. Again, thank you for your service, sir. Very much appreciate it. I have both my parents served military. My father served Navy. He served on the shoreline, taking care of the boats. My mother was a staff sergeant in working in a prison, military prison. So even my grandfather was Air Force, Canadian Air Force. So military is in my fam. So we very much appreciate, what we're doing and how everything is going along. I wanted to talk to you today about what got you initially into the military, and then kind of go on to a couple of topics that I think are prevalent in today's, today, what people are talking about today, and just kind of shedding some light and getting a little bit of clairvoyance as far as what role does the Canadian military really play in the world? Because I think, especially with the current protests in for Turkey and the asking of the Canadian military to get involved, I don't really think people understand and really kind of comprehend, what Canada's military is, what their role is. Like, we're not a juggernaut as far as, we don't have a lot of firepower or anything like that. And we're pretty much a neutral country. So we don't get involved in those kind of situations, but we'll get into that a little bit. But first, just when did you decide that the military was right for you?
Man, well, I was in CJEP when I
Yeah.
knew at the time.
Yeah.
And I always kind of wanted to be a cop.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's a cop. My grandfather was a cop. And then I remember I was young. I was like 17. And my dad's like, yeah, you can't join and be a cop. Now you're 17. You have no life experience. You need to get, finish CJEP. And I kept, bugging him. I'm like, no, I'm like, listen. I'm like, let me just see if I can get in and see what I can do. He's like, you're never going to get in. He's like, yeah, you got to have some life experiences. They don't accept people who's, under a certain age and no life experience, haven't finished school, etc. So I kept bugging him, and one day he's like, you know what? Why don't you just, I don't know, join the military and get some experience there? They accept people who are young. So one day he brought me down to the Black Watch, Montreal,
Yep.
the Royal Highland Regiment of Canada, and I went into an info session on a Tuesday night, and the sergeant, who's actually a friend of mine now, a really good friend of mine, was sitting there talking about his experience in Bosnia. And I just kind of sat there mesmerized, listening to this guy's story, and I was like, wow, this seems like a fantastic idea. like looking back now, I'm like, man, I was young and naive and
Yeah.
very, just young,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what it was. And I remember I joined. I joined on September 9th, 2001, like
Mm-hmm.
2 days before the 9/11.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was I remember making the joke with my bud, like, hey man, we're in Canada, we're never going to war, we'll be all right. And
Right.
literally 2 days later, Twin Towers, 9/11. Then my friend right away, he pulled his application out because he was going to join with me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, I'm out, bro, I'm out.
I'm not
I was
doing
like,
this.
yeah, he legit. He's like, I'm out. And I was like, oh well, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna stay in. We'll see what's up.
Mm-hmm.
And then that started my 13-year career in the army.
It's crazy, just like that, eh? And then, so in joining around September 11th, what was did they rush you into kind of getting you prepped, getting you ready, and then shipping you out?
No. So at first I had joined the reserves. Okay.
Right.
And the reserves is part time, and it's like every Tuesday night and every weekend, you kind of go out for training or whatever. So I was
Right.
I was brand new, man. Like when this happened, it was 2 days after I signed the paper. The ink was still
Right.
on the paper. So I do my basic course, which started in January of 2002. So I do my basic course, which is like 10 weeks. Then I did my soldier qualification, and then my infantry course, and then after that, they were taking names in the reserves,
Mm-hmm.
taking names to volunteer to finish out Bosnia because Bosnia was still open. Bosnia at the time was still open as a peacekeeping mission, and I put my name in for that, and I didn't get on it. They picked somebody else that had limited spots.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I ended up doing more training. And then I was like, man, I really want to go on tour. I want to do something. I want to serve my country, more than just being um, at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to transfer to the regular force because regular force, I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a tour.
Okay.
If you don't get a tour in the regular force, either you're skating or you're avoiding somehow. I don't know how you pull it off, but usually you're getting sent away somewhere.
Like you have to try not to get sent somewhere.
You got to pull some serious, I don't know, like magic to not get on a tour. In the regular force, okay?
They're like, we're not paying you for nothing.
Yeah, like legit. It's your job full time. You're there Monday to Friday. Sometimes weekends if the commanders feel like it, because I mean you're
Right.
paid 7 out of 7. Never really, you're paid yearly, right?
Right.
So it's a 24/7 job, and so I transferred to Reg Force. Ended up being a third Battalion Royal 22nd Regiment of Canada, the Vandus. Ended up it being in Para Company, so the paratroopers.
Yeah.
And
Just crazy. Absolutely crazy. You cannot pay me to jump out of a freaking plane. There's no way in the world.
I was nervous every jump. I'm not gonna lie. Every jump. Yeah, I have 41 jumps, okay? And
that's insane.
Every time I was nervous, I was like, man, what am I doing? Am I really doing this? This is like a plane or helicopter. Like this is not natural, but I would do it anyway but once you're in the air, all that fear's out the window. Like you're in the air. At this point, you just gotta do your job and like do your drills to kind of make your landing.
Right.
So it's. I was always nervous until they gave us the standby. Standby is the 15 seconds before you're about to leave.
That's when that light's red, and then you hear the bink, and the light turns green, tells you you're okay to go.
The standby is like the first guy who's in the door literally steps up to the door, and it's 15 seconds. Light turns green, and you're out. That's it.
Oh man, that's
so I was nervous from the time we get dressed, just to flight up, and then like we're doing all our checks in the plane. I'm like, everything. The jump master come by and check you. You okay? Yeah. Just your equipment, all this stuff. I was nervous at that part until he finally gave us the wins and then the standby, and then it was that's it. Let's go. Well, I'm here now.
Man,
we're in it now.
I can't. I just can't. I hate fucking heights. Like no matter what, I hate it. So there's no fucking way I'm getting up there. I hate flying in a plane where I know I'm not jumping out of the plane. There's no way in the world I'm getting up there to jump out. It's not happening. It's not happening.
It's different, definitely. Definitely different. I was with them, and then our unit got called to deploy.
Right.
They told us a year and a half in advance. Like, by the way, guys, warning order, we're going to be in Afghanistan. I'm on the next rotations.
Jesus.
So, so then we had what's called workup training.
Okay.
So for a year and a half, you do countless courses, like qualifications. You get qualified on many things. So, like, if let's say we had a lot of guys coming into who are still new coming in out of St. Jean's school and stuff. And
okay.
Coming to the battalion. So now, but you can't just have a bunch of soldiers who have no qualifications, right? They got to have the infantry course. So there's radio courses being done. There's driver courses. There's gunner courses for the LAV-3 vehicle that we will be driving over there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a TCCC, which is Tactical Combat Casualty Care course. Basically, like you're like a paramedic on the field.
Right.
There's all kinds of weapons courses. There's so many courses and training you do, and also we had 2 major exercises before going over. One was in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, for a month and a half, we're in Texas, and training with the Americans. And they kind of brought us there because the base that was there, which was the border of New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Similar terrain.
Yeah, similar terrain and climate. They were kind of trying to get us used to. to
Right.
navigate, to drive through, stuff like that, so we kind of wouldn't have a shock
Right.
too much when Afghanistan.
Hmm.
And then they made, which is to this day blows my mind, sent us to Wainwright, Alberta, like on the second major exercise. And Wainwright, Alberta is nothing like the terrain.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, Alberta. That's
Yeah.
the farthest thing from a desert I could think of.
Yeah. So it was like, you send us to desert in Texas. Okay, we got that part. But now you didn't like, but now we're going to go, later on to Wainwright. We're like,
Right.
all right, well, what's it, what it is, but we did it, another month and a half there. And then there's just like a year and a half of training and going away to different places and learning things before actually being deployed.
Right. That's insane. And so once you finally kind of get the go ahead and you're in the plane flying over Afghanistan, um, what's running through your head as far as like thinking about like I know you guys go through, like you said, like a year and a half of training for a specific mission. You know what you're getting into. It's not like they're just dropping you off on the other side and being like, yeah, this is what it is. Okay, figure it out. Like, you got to do this. Goodbye. You're trained in what you're supposed to do. But what's your mindset as far as like how are you processing this event that's about to happen?
Oh, personally for me, I was a wreck. Like, I remember the day I left, I was on a later flight than my platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Platoon went up 4 or 5 days before me,
Right.
and I was on a later flight because I had a not a family issue, but I was like, I had my vacation slotted later on before deploying.
Okay.
I'll be back a certain time, and so my company commander like kind of let me come on a later flight.
Okay.
And on a later flight, I was traveling with another platoon, most of the other platoon that was going up, and one of my good buddies was in that platoon, Yuri. And I remember the day we were leaving, man, my dad was there at the time, his wife, so my ex stepmom,
Mm-hmm.
my brother, who was 7 at the time, like my best friend John, a few people, my grandmother, like there was like I had about like 20 people come see me in Quebec because I was leaving
Right.
from Quebec.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, man, everything was great. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna be all right. And then, like, my dad pulled me to the side and he's like, it's just me and him one on one. He's like, whatever you do over there, be careful. You're my little boy. You're my firstborn. This and that. And right away, the waterworks. I mean,
Of
now I'm
course.
like, now I'm completely
You're like,
combobulated.
you just fucked up my whole
Yeah,
like
legit.
Terminator moment, Dad. Like,
God, like now I'm like, fuck, man. Why'd you have to tell me this
you're
shit?
like, come on, man, don't do this to
Yeah,
me. Not
like
not now,
legit,
not now. Jesus
legit.
Christ.
So I mean, we're walking towards the doors now. Say bye to my family. I walk towards the doors, and like my dad, I didn't notice at the time, but my dad pulled my buddy Yuri aside, and he's like, "Yo," he's like, "watch out for my boy over there, this and that." And Yuri's like, "Yeah, I got him," but he's like, "But I gotta be careful too." He's like, "Yeah, but but I got your boy, And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I'm crying, like legit. I'm like tears, like I'm legit ugly cry, bro. Like there's
Yeah,
no, this isn't no classical movie cry.
yeah. You're like a Jordan crier where you're trying to hold it back
Like,
when it's not
yo,
working.
man,
Yeah.
I'm fucking blubbering. I get on the bus. I stopped crying on the bus for like 10 minutes. I get off the bus. At the time, Prime Minister Stephen Harper's there. He's shaking our hands. He walks up to me. He's like, "Good luck over there, soldier." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, sir." It's the Prime Minister shaking my hand. Like, as I'm walking into the plane, we're walking off the bus on the tarmac into the plane.
Right.
And I'm getting in the plane and I'm sitting there and I'm crying, man. I mean, like, I can't stop. I just can't stop crying.
Right.
And Yuli's like, "We're gonna be okay, man. We're gonna be okay." He's trying to calm me down. This whole like it's 18 hours, man, of like flying. He's like trying to calm me down. I'm like trying to pray. I'm doing everything that I just didn't normally do. Right. And this whole time in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not gonna make it over there, man. Like it's just I'm gonna be one of those, caskets coming home. That's exactly what I was thinking the whole time. The
Right.
whole flight over. That's where my mindset was. I wasn't thinking about how good I can do my job. None of that. It was just I'm gonna come home in a box. That was the last time I saw my family was right there at those doors. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. Is that I was a nervous wreck until till the moment we stepped foot kind of like out of the compound to go into the field. In that
Right.
And I remember like it was like yesterday. We landed in Calf, which is Kandahar Airfield,
Mm-hmm.
and we spent like the night because we landed like at midnight. And then it was like next morning we had all these briefings, like what happened in the region in the last like 24 hours, what's the
Mm-hmm.
enemy activity, all that stuff. And then my convoy was going out to bring me to my platoon, which was all the way at Massamgar, a fort operating base. So we're literally about to like step out when you have the convoy briefing. So it's everyone who's gonna be in this convoy. There's like 10 vehicles, all filled with people carrying logistics and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And basically my taxi to go to the fob. And I'm with Yuri again because he's going to the same fob where his platoon is also.
Right.
And we're sitting there, and then the convoy commander's giving the briefing, and like it was like this. He's like, "Okay, guys, we're heading out on this convoy. We have to do 2 or 3 stops to drop off people at certain fobs. Raise your hand who's going to this fob." So we're raising our hand. We're going to Massamgar, this, that, whatever. And he's like, "Okay, so on the way there, it's 40 kilometers, okay, from Calf to where we're headed."
Right.
It goes, the total time would be about 4-hour drive because of all the stops we got to do and everything. He goes, "By the way, there's a enemy barricade at checkpoint 3. There's an ambush waiting for us at checkpoint 7. There's been known to be ambushed at checkpoint 9." He's like saying all these places where they've been hit in the last week. Like legit, like there's word has been barricades set it up. All these things are in place. And he's like, "Okay," at the end of the briefing, he's like, "Any questions?" And I'm like, "I got a question."
Am I gonna die right now?
Legit.
Like,
And he's like, "Yeah."
Jesus.
I'm like, "Are we still going?" He's like, "Yeah, we're heading out no matter in a half an hour." I was like, "But you just said that there's like all these barricades and ambush." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm like, so what's the what are we gonna do?" He's like, "We're gonna fight through." I was like, "All right." I remember I look at Yuri and I was like, "Dude, we gonna die today."
like right like, soon.
Today, like the next hour, man. We go like this is what he said to me, and this is the moment that I stopped. That I kind of I accepted death.
Okay.
And 2, I stopped being nervous or not. You still kind of always stayed scared in Afghanistan, but
yeah,
I stopped being worried about dying.
Right.
He looked at me, Yuri, and he said, "Well, if you die, at least you won't be alone. I'll be right there with you." Legit. That was it. It was not like
it's not gonna happen. He's like,
yeah,
no.
It's like it is. Here we are, but at least you won't be alone, and I'll be right there with you, no matter what happens. And I was like, and that for the weirdest reason just calmed me right down.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like that's you can't even kind of quantify like that kind of, because there's a lot of people who talk about having near death experiences and having to deal with like illnesses and everything, and they say they have that moment where they let it go, they let the fear go, and it kind of changes them forever. You don't go back to the way you were once you've accepted that. It's kind of like you've accepted your limitations as a human being, and you understand that it's not forever and that it's never going to be forever. And it kind of, some people say it gives you a certain level of freedom because you let go of this fragility that you have mentally, and you kind of say like, yeah, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, man. Like we're just going to get this done. So it's crazy that your buddy Yuri is kind of like he's not sugarcoating it. He's like, yeah, dude, it's a possibility, but we're in the best scenario possible for the situation we're in right now. So that's like, that's nuts for him to say that. Legit. And then, so you're there, you're in Kandahar. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so now we're in Kandahar. Yeah. At Kandahar Airfield, which is like a national base. Like, I mean, there's like, at the time, now there's more, but at the time there was 10,000 multinational troops. I'm talking like troops from France, England, Australia, US. I mean, everywhere. If anyone was part of the NATO,
okay,
was there.
And then, so what's the relationship like as far as different soldiers from different countries? Like, how does the rest of the world perceive like Canadian military? Because I'm sure when they look at, like, I mean, just from the stereotypes, I'm sure they look at the Americans like, oh boy, there's the fucking cowboys, there's the gun ho guys who are going to go and get shit, like, they're going to go do all the fucking dirty work right now. But as far as Canadians, like, how do they view? How are we viewed as far as like in that frame, that world of military? Like, how do they view us as military people?
I think Afghanistan put us on the map. And I don't mean like we were on the map before, with World War One, World War II. Obviously, Remembrance Day is the most important like wars that have happened
Right.
in our, you know, lifetime, where like it's signified such a big deal. Obviously, World War One, World War II were probably the biggest events in Canadian history. Afghanistan now is up there along with like Korea, which is like the forgotten war.
Right.
And it's like I think Canada gave every other nation. It showed every other nation from Afghanistan like, yo, we're here, we're the real deal. Because we were out there, we weren't peacekeeping, man. There was no, we weren't holding, we weren't neutral. Okay, my company, my battalion, was the tactical group. We were out there like taking ground, man.
Right.
And taking ground is not to, you go somewhere and just kind of stand around. It was like we were moving, and it was like moving to places where the enemy was living. So as soon as you hit like this imaginary line where the enemy was, it was like contact. You
Right.
know, it was firefights, it was explosions, it was a fight to clear them out. And I say clear them out, it's like kill them,
Mm-hmm.
or capture them, and then hold that area so that the reconstruction team can come in and kind of build up whatever they want to build up in that area, or do whatever they were going to do.
Right.
You gotta take it, you gotta hold it, build on it, and then hold it again. And then
Not letting, yeah, not letting the enemy take it back. Yeah.
exactly. And we did that for our whole mission of 7 months over there, is taking territories,
That's
holding
insane,
territories,
man.
taking territories, holding it. And we were on like I said, we were on forward operating bases. Like we were at my platoon, especially, was at Massim Gar, which is like Gar means mountain,
Okay.
Afghan. So the village around called Massim, so it's like Massim Gar, because like a
Mm-hmm.
big huge mountain. We were like kind of based in that mountain. Then we were at Spurwin Gar also. We were in Mushan, and this little village. It We called it Haji Village. It's not the real name.
Okay.
I actually don't know the real name. I know it was like right next to Zangabad, which Zangabad was like a huge Taliban strong point, like
Okay.
huge, huge, huge. And we went and took that. It was checkpoint 3 that we took, and it's supposed to be a police command post that we were
Okay.
gonna kind of build up. And I remember we held that thing, but it was like the worst place to be, man. It was literally, one side was like the Arghandab River, which is we say a river, that's what it was called, but it's like a stream.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side was just like clay huts and just enemy filled village. It was
Jesus.
crazy.
And like, so you guys are there, and you guys are holding. You guys have taken this strong point. You got into a firefight to get to that point, kind of thing. Like you overtook that ground.
So on the initial operation to take it, there was like, um, I think his name was Nathan Hornberg. He got killed. He was one of the first tanks. Like they were like,
Okay.
it was like a crazy fight. My company commander, the major, got his vehicle blown up. No casualties, thank God. There's a bunch of vehicles that got destroyed in taking that. It was a complete firefight going towards to take that checkpoint. Like it
Okay.
was a massive, massive fight. Uh, Lots of hours, and it was just like, I can't even explain to you what goes on in these situations. But like that was like, to take that place was intense, and to hold it was even like was like you just never knew what was going to happen. And also, while you were holding it, you were only like 20 something guys in there. And the nearest QRF was 7 kilometers away. QRF is a quick reaction force.
Right. So any kind of assistance or anything is
It was going to take some time.
yeah, like you're stuck in the rut for a while until someone can come in and give you aid or help you guys out.
Yeah.
So you're in this firefight. I mean, obviously your brain probably just shuts itself off and just says, we're just in survival mode right now. Like we're not.
Like, I wasn't in, because my platoon was at the rear of that whole fight.
Okay.
So the rest of the company was taking it, and we were in the rear. We were like the QRF of the whole operation.
Right.
And I remember we had got called out for other IEDs that happened at the same time. We were all over the place on that particular day.
Okay.
But then we ended up having to go and hold it after 4 or 5 days. They were the first guys who took it. We ended up holding it, our platoon.
Okay.
But in my company, other platoons were in that actual fight. I mean, my first experience of being in a fight was random. We were like right near, right next to Spurwengar. We weren't far. We're on a dismounted patrol. There's mounted and dismounted patrols. Mounted is in vehicles. Dismounted, you're on foot.
Mm-hmm.
We're in this dismounted patrol, and we were clearing Route Brown, which goes next to Foster's, which Foster's was at the time considered the second most dangerous road in the world.
Jesus.
Only behind Route Irish in Iraq.
Okay.
And we were clearing Route Brown, and I was kind of posted up as a sharpshooter, while the rest of my section was doing called an inverted V to clear for IEDs in the road.
Right.
Like dismounted. So it was me, my master corporal, and the machine gunner from the platoon was with us. And we were kind of doing overwatch to make sure nobody would hit our guys from the sides or ambush them.
Right.
And I remember, man, it was just like the sound of like a rifle firing at us. But in the moment, I didn't realize it was a rifle firing at us. And then like the rounds were skipping off the ground. But like, okay, I gotta put into perspective. Afghanistan is like the most alien place I've ever been to.
Okay.
I mean alien. I mean like I've been a lot of places, man. I've traveled the Caribbean, I've traveled to Europe, I've traveled a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan just took me for a loop. You get to this place and it almost looks like it's not even planet Earth anymore. You just feel like you're somewhere else. That's why I said it's like alien. Like the insects are bigger. Like everything is just times 4.
Nothing makes sense to you.
Nothing makes sense. I'm talking like ants, bro. Ants are like huge. I can't even like they're just huge. Okay, and like wasps are huge. Everything is just amplified. The camel spiders, everything's just big.
Camel spiders. Jesus Christ.
It's just like you're like wow. Okay, look at that. Oh, look at that. Like, so I'm lying out on this dirt mound. I got my chief there and the machine gunner around, and it starts shooting at us, and like bullets were skipping off the ground in front of us, and we all did the same kind of look. Like,
is this for real?
No, we weren't. We were just, what was that? And we're like, is that something we haven't seen yet? Like it's kind of bug,
right?
Across the rug. What was that? And then it happened again, another burst, and we're like, and then finally we all clicked the same time, like, oh, we're being shot at.
Oh Jesus!
And then I see my chief just gets up and he just books it into the ditch. So I follow him. Shingler follows me. And now we're in the ditch, and it's like, and now the bursts are picking up. So he's like, so my chief looks at me and goes, okay, we're gonna cross the road. There's a wall. Like, we're gonna hit the wall and we're gonna try to find the contact. I'm like, all right, man. I'm with you. Let's go.
Right.
So he's like, all right, let's go. We cross the road. We hit the wall. And I remember hitting the wall, and then we're like ducked down on the wall. And the chief looks at me and goes, all right, Garner. He doesn't mean a French because I was in a French unit, but he's like, let's go. I'm like, what do you mean, let's go? He's like, you're the sharpshooter. He's like, find the guy. And I was like,
you're like, what? Like, motherfucker, what? Why are you gonna put me in this position? Jesus Christ.
He's like, well, you're the sharpshooter, you got a special gun, like this is your show. And I was like, okay, fuck, you know. When I get up, I look, get don't see him, I get back down. You know, and there's a rule like never expose yourself too long. So it's like up, he sees me, I'm down. That's how you fast you gotta be up and down.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, then I'm like, don't get up in the same spot, right?
Yeah, obviously.
So I shift over about 4 or 5 feet, get up again, I see him. Now everything is running through me. Adrenaline, fear, the heat, sweat. I mean, name it, I'm going through every possible thing in my body at this point.
Right.
I see the guy, and I'm so nervous. And because mind you, I'm a sharpshooter. I see the guy, I shoot, I miss, and I'm like, fuck. And then I just remember my training was like, Kate, frame. I frame over, shoot again. As time he's kind of like turning. I hit him, he drops, and then I fired a third shot because it was just like a reflex, nervousness, and everything in one. And then I was so in tunnel vision that what happens is you go into auditory exclusion. You literally go deaf. Like you don't hear anything around you. Like that's
your mind's trying to focus in on the task to make sure that you're going to survive. Yeah,
big time. So then it's like, I remember my training. It's like, hey, scan and breathe. So I like literally look to my left and my right, and I'm breathing out and trying to breathe in, and that's when my hearing comes back, and I see my chiefs like yelling at me, Garner, target designation, where is he? And I was like, what?
You're like, shit.
Yeah, and he's like yelling at me like, where is this guy? Like, give me a target designation. And I'm like, okay, yeah, 150 meters to the north. I'm like, but he's down. I got him. He's like, what? I'm like, I got him. He's down. Like, contact down. I'm like, enemy down. He's like, you sure? I'm like, I'm pretty sure, man. Like, I hit this guy. That's it. He's like, okay. So then, like, my sergeant here, when they're ready to get contact to the north, they come and rejoin us, the rest of my section. Even the machine gunner's like looking at me now. At one point, I remember doing this, but he said I threw my ballistic glasses away. And he comes up to me, he hands them to me, the machine gunner who was with us. He goes, you dropped these. I'm like, I don't remember doing it. He goes, you took them off your wrist and you threw them. And I think I did it because I just couldn't, it was fogging up because I was breathing so heavy.
Right.
That I ended up fogging up my ballistic glasses.
Right.
He handed them to me and I was like, oh, thanks. But like, that's how like it went so fast that I don't remember taking them off and throwing them because I couldn't see.
Like you don't remember most of the moment. You just remember what
I don't remember
your focus
of me doing that action. You know, like it was just like, and then that's when I realized for real that the training works. The training, if you do something repeatedly over and over and over and over again, muscle memory kicks in every time. Even on your most stressed moments, it'll kick in. That's what it did. I remember me saying to myself, scan and breathe, because we were told that probably 1,000 times during trainings and on the ranges and all these like special trainings we did. And you're shooting, you finish shooting, scan and breathe. Look to your left, look to your right, all that stuff. Like make sure everyone's okay. There's someone behind you, whatever it is. Like, and to breathe. I remember saying that to myself, and I did it. And then my hearing came back, and I was back in my surroundings around me.
Crazy. That's absolutely nuts. And then so then this transpires. Was this at the beginning of your tour, or was this towards the end of the tour?
This is pretty much in the beginning. This is
right at the beginning of the tour.
Yeah.
And then
not even a month in.
How many more situations were there other situations you got into during the 7-month tour that were similar or like in the same kind of context where you come under fire and you have to deal with these things?
Constantly. Well, we got into a lot. I personally and my buddy Nick Depay, this poor guy with me, we always used to get into for some reason, I don't know if they were picking on us. I mean, they probably couldn't tell who we were really.
Right.
Me and him, we were constantly shooting at people. either our observation points or something that and being rocketed at. But like it happened so many times. It just like
Right.
so many situations where we're like, okay, what now? What today? What's gonna happen today? Like, is this the day we die? Is this the day we lose a leg or something? Because
Right.
our platoon was the bad luck platoon. Like we lost like three guys, that died over there in a on our tour,
I'm
and
sorry.
then we we had three guys leave, four guys leave with injuries, with wounds. So my LT lost his leg. Uh, the same machine gunner who was on in that first contact lost his leg. Uh, the crew commander of that vehicle shattered his leg. He didn't lose his leg, but pretty much every bone in his leg shattered.
Shattered.
The driver of that vehicle hurt his back really badly in that uh, explosion. Also, that same explosion killed Nick and Michelle. Nick was our medic, and Michelle the signaler. And that was one event that took out our entire HQ. The only guy who stayed from that whole vehicle was the gunner of the vehicle, who stayed in Afghanistan with us. Everybody else was, then either died or got their legs blown up or got hurt somehow. And even the interpreter died in that one too.
That's terrible. And then you got no one who can talk to anybody, so now you're really fucked.
It was it was a rough go. Like, our platoon was so bad because we kept getting hit. All like we were the first platoon to lose someone on that mission on the whole tour. We're the first casualty of that whole tour was for our platoon.
Jesus.
So we were there for 7 months, and in 7 months, I don't remember the exact number because I know from 2007 to 2008, 54 total soldiers died,
Right.
and we got there in July 2007, and from on our tour, Simone was the first to die, and that happened within like the first 3 weeks of
Jeez.
being there. Like, he hadn't even had I think not even a full month in,
Jeez.
or maybe I had a month in, might have had a month in. It was really it was quick.
Yeah, it's traumatic for to say the least. And then so you go through the 7 month tour, and by the grace of God, you make it out with all your limbs, everything. You're relatively good health physically. Did you go back? Did you do any other tours, or was that the one tour you did?
That was the one.
Okay, good. Happy you didn't go back after that. Jesus Christ, I think you paid your dues. So you come back home, and then how are you mentally?
I was I was good for 3 years. I was just no problem in the world for 3 years. Um, Everything was great. And then a guy who was in my platoon in '07 ended up going back on his second tour in Afghanistan, Steve Mapting, and he died. And I remember where I was going to play flag football. And my buddy Yuri called me. He's like, did you hear? I'm like, hear what? He's like, Mapting's dead. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, Steve Mapting is dead. I was like, Steve? Like redhead Steve? He's like, yeah. And then I was like, okay. Like I didn't know what to say because I was kind of like, all right, but how, when, like
Right. Yeah.
all these questions go through your head at the same time. He's like, he apparently stepped on an IED. That's all we know so far. So I was like, Jesus Christ, And then I think like that week starting, I started having symptoms of PTSD. I didn't know it was that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be walking around randomly at the mall and start crying. I'd watch a comedy movie, start crying. Uh, I'd be boiling water to make pasta, start crying. And I'm like, how? I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? you know. And then I called a friend, and he's like, "Sounds like you're starting to have PTSD." I'm like, "PTSD?" I'm like, "Nah, that's not me, you know." I'm like, "I'm good. I've been good this whole time. Nothing
Mhm.
is great." And then he's like, "I think you're starting to have symptoms." I'm like, nah, I'm good, I'm good. And then the nightmares kicked in, and then it was just like, the anxiety started kicking in, and it was like hypervigilance, and then it got so bad where I was like, man, like I can't handle this. I was contemplating suicide, all these things, and then it got to that point where you was like, Kate, we gotta go to the doctor, bro. Like he brought me to the base, saw the medical doctor, like, yeah, right away she's like, PTSD diagnosis, severe depression. From
Mhm.
that moment on, I was diagnosed 3 years later. So Steve Mappin died just under 3 years,
Right.
but I think that was the trigger that kind of
That was the thing that set it off. That
set
kind
it
of like
off.
pushed you over the edge. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then so you get diagnosed with you get diagnosed with PTSD. Um, did you have any brain trauma while you were over there? Like, did you get your head rocked? Did you get like in a blast zone or anything?
I've been in blast zones. I've been, rockets fired near me, exploded near me,
Right.
especially at Massamangar. At Massamangar, we're getting rocketed all the time.
Right.
Um, I don't think I've ever been concussed per se over there. I don't
Okay.
remember losing consciousness. I don't remember having a headache.
Right.
I don't remember. Like, I mean, there was definitely times I've been close to countless explosions.
Okay.
Uh, Especially in the last 2 months of my tour, I was with the Afghan National Army. That's where I pretty much had most of my firefights, and that's where it was like a lot of explosions happened there. But I would never got concussed
Okay.
per se, or knocked out, or where I felt it that it kind of would hurt my head.
Okay. Cool.
So I
And
don't know. I can't really say if I've had
yeah. And
TBI.
then so when they're going through this diagnosis to diagnose you with PTSD, are they doing like physical? Are they like, doing MRIs, CAT scans on your brain, checking you out, seeing how you're doing? Or is it more just like going to see a psychiatrist, going to see a psychologist, seeing, like a trauma doctor, that kind of stuff, and seeing how you're doing
It
as
was
far as,
it was psychiatrist, psychologist, and doctor
okay,
that I was seeing. I was seeing all three, and then at one point I was still seeing a social worker. So like four people, like all split up between like So I'd have like two one week, two the other week type deal.
right,
It was like for that was in the beginning. It was very like almost every week I was seeing somebody.
right. To try to break the symptom or try to deal with it in a way that it's not going to put you in harm's way or put somebody else in harm's way, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um, and then so you're diagnosed with this PTSD, and are they giving you medication? Do they basically just push you into therapy? Do they try to, do they say, okay, no work, no nothing, like we're going to deal with this for a while and see how this goes? Like, what was the process from after the diagnosis that we're
yeah.
dealing with?
So did my fingers go out?
I can hear you, can't see you.
What's happening here with this video? Hold on a second. What's going on here? I don't know what's happening here. It just randomly stopped.
Oh, now I get a little signal. Oh wait, something's coming back in.
This has got dark.
It's dark. I can see like your blinds behind you.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Now we're back.
Light.
It's like whatever was lighting your face before, like it just died.
But that was just the outside light. It's weird. Hold on.
Do you have a light? Because right now you look like you're coming out of Hellraiser or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some light going on here. Hold on.
Oh, there we go. That's perfect.
Room lighting up, yeah.
Yeah. No, now you're good.
All right.
Much better.
Try to kill this one, maybe.
Perfect. Yeah, that's better. Good. That works.
So yeah, I was on. They put me on medication, uh, which I think the first med they put me on, which was Effexor, was probably the worst medication ever to ever go through. Man, that stuff was like I never tried drugs other
Yeah.
than weed, but
Right.
I can tell you, this is probably like what coming off crack or heroin feels like. It was just, and that was going on it. Like the first week was absolutely brutal,
Right.
and so I was on that countless therapy. And then I was followed like I was off work, so they like right away like, yeah, you're not going back to work. And I was still in
Okay.
the army full time.
Right.
They were like, yeah, you're not going back to work anytime soon. So I got like a month off here, and then the symptoms never really died down for like, I would say the first, I want to say year. The first year was probably first year and a half was probably the hardest.
Right.
And like they were saying that the strongest points possible, all the symptoms and flashbacks and intrusive thoughts and suicidal tendencies, and that was like probably the worst part.
Right.
So then you're like, they just kept postponing me. I was like, nope, not back to work, not back to work. Then I asked them, I said, I need to work, man. I gotta keep my mind busy. Send me
Hmm.
back to work. Like,
Yeah.
let me go. Let me do something. I can't just sit around at home. It's worse sitting around
Yeah.
at home, than to actually be working. They're like, yeah, but they might trigger you if you're working. I'm like, I don't care, man. I got to do something. Not. I can't just sit around.
Right.
So I did. I had like a desk job in the army. I was working operations, and it was just parts of some days were easier than others, but it wasn't what I was used to. I'm like, I'm a guy who has to go in the field and it's
You
physical
want to
work.
get shit done. Yeah. You're not a guy who's going to sit behind a desk and just
I
kind of.
can't. On the computer was just killing me. Just
Right.
killing me. Right. And like I had like I think one more episode, but it happened not in the army, it happened outside at a ball hockey game where I cleared out an entire arena. They had like 15 cop cars come. It was a bad deal. Like it was I didn't get arrested or anything, thank God there, but like it could have ended very badly.
Right. Jeez. That's And then so when did you start to feel like you were getting it under control? Like when did it start to feel like you were starting to see kind of like things to subside a bit? You felt like you were more your normal self again. Um when did that start to play kind of when did that start feeling like that cloud is starting to lift a bit?
Honestly, probably the best that I felt starting to feel better was probably 2014 when I started, or 2013 when I started fighting.
Okay.
I started doing mixed martial arts at TriStar,
Right.
and being around like George St. Pierre and all these guys, and that's when I kind of started to feel a little bit better. I wasn't at my best in the
Hmm.
beginning, but it would channel a lot of the symptoms because it would tire me out so much that I didn't have time to think of these things, or my body didn't let me think of these things.
Right. You
So
were
it was just that was the start of me starting to feel a little bit better, or to be more manageable.
okay. Crazy. And so you're going through all this. So when do you meet your girlfriend? Is this after your tour or did you know her before you went on tour?
No, I met her in 2014.
Okay. So you're back for what is it? You're back for about a year, 2 years now
Yeah,
at that point?
actually, no, I actually met her in 2013, and in 2013, like August around, and then
Okay.
like dating here and there, and then we finally got together. It was 20 late 2014.
Okay. So 2014. And so at this point are you still dealing with symptoms or you kind of have it under control a little bit better at that
I was
point?
still dealing with symptoms, but they weren't as intense as the year before. Like the year
Okay.
before was intense, man. Like I was
Right.
hospitalized twice
Okay.
for suicide attempts.
Right.
I was like, cops intervening at my house and stuff like that. It was intense for those until I'm gonna say until just before me and her got official.
You kind of got your, and so I'm guessing she probably helps a lot because she grounds you in a lot of ways and keeps your, it gives you purpose as far as like, this is your family, this is who you care for, this is who you protect, this is how you get through your day-to-day kind of deal.
Well, she's very good at listening. Like she listens to like if I have a problem or if I'm having like an off day or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, she'll kind of like talk to me. But she's more of the person she'll drive me to like, okay, how do we fix the problem?
Okay.
What's the solution so you don't feel like this?
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is good because it's keeps me constantly like, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Instead of sitting where you are.
You keep moving forward into it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Well, of what you're in right now, kind of like, what's the next step? Where do we go from here?
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Especially with that kind of stuff.
She keeps you motivated to push forward and do new things and buy beautiful trucks and get motorcycles.
No, that's
and get fancy motorcycles and all this kind of stuff. I remember I saw that first thing. I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, what the hell is, look at all this crap he has. And then I was like, oh, he's in the military. He doesn't give a shit about this kind of stuff. Riding motorcycles is like the least of his worries. He doesn't give a fuck about that. He's like, you know where I've been? Fuck this shit.
You know what, man? It's funny you say that because I had the same con with my dad yesterday. My dad was like, yo, you gotta be careful on that motorcycle. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, listen, man, like, yeah, there's a 50-50 chance, I die on a motorcycle. I'm like, but there was a 50-50 chance to die in Afghanistan too, and I made it through that.
Yeah.
That was a hot mess over there. You know what I mean? People were dying around me, legit. And like, I made it out. I'm a big believer in fate. So I'm like, if I wasn't meant to go there, I'm not going to go. I think I personally, I'm not going to end up dying on the street. That's just my personal thing of fate. I believe in fate. Like,
right.
You didn't survive one huge thing to die crossing the street. That's just,
I understand. I get you. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people talk about the military in a certain light, but I think the majority of the people who are talking about military are the people who are not in the military. And I personally had like reservations about the military like beforehand, but I've spent the last couple of years trying to listen to a lot of people who have actually been in military, done things for military, and trying to understand, there's this group of people, much like athletes, who just people don't understand what they like, how they can handle this kind of situation and those ideals. And it's not as simple as, we're going to fight the bad guy. Like I find a lot of times that, especially in media, to kind of get people behind these military events or whatever, they try to paint this picture of, well, we're on the side of right and they're on the side of wrong and they're doing their thing and we're doing our thing. But they, in those certain terms, I find like they always try to, like, they have to dehumanize somebody. And the fact is, we are a bunch of human beings on this same rock, still going down to where it comes to physical altercations where we are having to fight for ground and things. And although I think a lot of us have the mentality where we don't want to admit that war is something that's going on. But the fact of the matter is that if you don't have people like you or other people who serve in the military and are willing to put down their life for what they believe in and who they want to defend, the world it's not all roses and sunshine. And there are people out there who are looking to do things that I don't think other people kind of even fathom as far as what's going on. So I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you deal with it, but all I can say is there's not enough times. I mean, every year that Remembrance Day comes up, I always say a prayer for my grandfather. I always say thank you to my mother and my father. And then I always make sure that I message you and say thank you for your service, because you cannot thank people in the military enough for what they do, regardless of whether you're for or against it. The weight that you guys are putting on your shoulders, and the trauma and everything that you guys are going to have to deal with, no one can fathom unless they've been through it. And although, like there's a famous quote, I think it was Colin Powell, who said, you may not be for the war, but you need to be for the people, because those people are the ones who are assuring that you get to live your life, every day the way that you choose to see fit. And especially in a place like Canada, where we are so neutral to a certain extent. Like we're not a military superpower like the United States. We're not Sweden or anything like that. We're kind of aligned with the US, but if it's not for people like you, doing what you do, we don't have what we have. So thank you so much for everything that you do and everything that you've done. And you know what I want people to know about is there anything, as far as being a military vet, that you want people to know, or people to just understand, that you feel like maybe common right now, especially being in the area that we are in right now, that maybe isn't coming across properly?
Well, first, I always have
Mhm.
I always have a hard time being called a military veteran, like because I'm so technically still young. Because whenever I was coming up, I thought of veterans as the guys, these old World War I and World War II guys who had the medals, kind of like so many medals hang on their jacket that they're crooked because it's so heavy.
Yeah.
Like, and I just think of those guys, and the more and more the years go by, and the more and more, which is so wild, man. My daughter's school started school this year, and they asked me this year, because they found out that I was in the military and in served in Afghanistan. They asked me to do the Remembrance Day video, like a not a speech, like an interview that they were going to air at the school,
Right.
and that kind of like made me realize I'm a fucking veteran.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't it's not something that you get used to.
Mm-hmm.
Even for me, when people say to me, people ask me for my license plate on my truck or my bike, like, "Oh, you're a veteran," and I gotta kind of think and go, "Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah."
yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, yeah, yeah,
Still
yeah.
new to me. Um, but for people, I mean, if I was gonna tell people, I don't know, just like thank a veteran. Like there is a lot that we undertake that people don't know. Like me and you here talking today, but there's still a lot that I don't say. There's still a lot that not you'll never know because I don't want to tell you, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
like there's so much to explain.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize is when you deploy. Okay, I was 23. I wasn't the youngest, but I wasn't the oldest. Like there was guys with me, like my good buddy Nicholas Depin, who was always in the shit with me somehow. He was like 19, man, 19, 20. And
That's insane.
yeah, and like before we deployed, okay, there was a whole checklist of things we had to do. It was like this, take care of this, make sure your house is in order, all this stuff. Where's your car stored, etc., 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 etc. And one of the things, and one of the last things was make sure your will and testament is filled out.
Right.
Now, I was 23. When you're like 19, 20, like my buddy Nick and stuff, you're filling out a will and testament. Like, I know 35-year-olds who don't have their will and testament filled out yet.
Right.
Like I'm 37 now. I also got kids, and I have one.
Right.
But like, I was filling one out about 23. I didn't have any kids. I didn't have a girlfriend. I had you know what I mean. I was just a
You're like,
single
what? I
dude,
don't have anything to leave to anybody. Like, what do you want
right?
me to? I got a couple pair of shoes. I guess they
I
can
have
have
a
those.
PlayStation. I got a TV. You know what I mean? I was like basically leaving that stuff to my 7-year-old brother. Like, well, if I should die, leave this
It's
stuff to my
yours. Yeah.
yeah, legit. That's what. But I have to fill one out anyway because of the whole legal process, right? But it was like you fill this out and you realize, hey, I could legit die. So I'm saying people don't understand is that you're being deployed. People don't understand that we are literally willing to die. Like I'm giving the chance that I may not come back.
Yeah.
at all. Like, like I may not come back. And it's hard for us, but it's harder for our parents. Or, I have my sergeant who had his girlfriend, or people who have wives. I had guys in my platoon who had wives and kids, man. Like legit, they had wives and kids waiting for them back home. They're leaving. There's two kids at home, wife at home, like, and they don't know if they're gonna see daddy again. Like, that's a lot to undertake, especially for the family.
Yeah.
It's a lot to undertake. And there was, especially whenever something would happen, an incident, if you lose somebody, or the phones get cut off. We had like one phone for the whole platoon. So like one phone for like 40 guys. It was a satellite phone.
Hmm.
Now things are different in tours. Everyone's got a phone or a laptop, whatever. But like back then, it wasn't. The internet connection was like shoddy.
Yeah.
Phones were like down more than half the time. So we had a satellite phone that was always kind of on, but it had to be shared with the whole platoon.
Like 40 people. It's like a jail phone where it's like whose turn is it to make their call home?
Yeah, right. So you kind of let the guys with kids first call home and
Of
stuff,
course.
right? And it's crazy, man. Like stuff would happen, and you can't call home and tell your parents you're okay. You have
Right.
to wait till the family is notified, right?
Hmm.
Back home first, and then it has to be announced in the media, and then you can call home.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and then so we call home. Yeah, I'm okay. This and that. Man, there was a couple of times I'd be legit calling my dad, and then like we'd get like rocketed, and I have to hand the phone. There's no like, okay, gotta go. But it was just like,
Just gotta hang it up. We gotta
gotta
go.
go. You know what I mean? And then they're I call back 2 days later, right? Because I've been busy and things have happened and we've gone out and done things. And then I get with the earful. How are you just gonna hang up the phone? I hear an explosion. Then I got the phone on me. I heard for you 2 days. I'm like, yo, sorry, dad. Sorry, like everybody back home, grandma. But like, when I gotta go, I gotta
You
go.
gotta
There's
go. You
no,
gotta go. Yeah, that's it.
there's got no time to say bye or if something happened.
Yeah.
I just gotta kind of run and get my stuff ready and go do what's going on.
Yeah, of course. Of
It
course.
happened at least
That's
2 or 3 times where I've hung up on them mid
mid
sentence.
sentence. Just
Yeah,
oh, go bye.
yeah,
Jesus.
legit, right? So it was
That's
pretty
crazy.
pretty special. And that's what I'm saying. It's when I say veteran, it's like you got to think of these people. These people like me. I totally have a hard time saying it. Like it's so like new to me. But like we sacrificed a lot, a lot.
You're sacrificing everything
Yeah,
for people you don't know. For
exactly,
for a
exactly,
flag. That's what you're basically doing. And
exactly,
I know people like to spin the rhetoric and say like, oh well, they're there because they're trying to ascertain whatever, or they're not there to really help people. They're there to you know deploy or cover interests and stuff. And um, I know maybe in a couple of cases that may be the factor, but the fact of the matter that a lot of people like you who join the military and go on tour are not joining because they believe in economic domination or anything like that. They're going because they believe in serving their country. They believe that it's their duty and their right to assure that everyone who they love and care about in the country that they live in gets to be and continue what it's doing. And
And there's a quote, and I don't want to misquote it too much, but it says, "The person who hates the soldier hates war more than anybody else." I'm paraphrasing, but
yeah, that
that's
makes total sense.
and it's the truth though. Like, there's not many soldiers who are really big into politics.
Right.
Okay, you don't join the army because you're like, oh, this politician is better than this, and we believe in this. What?
Hmm.
That's not why you join the army. You join the army for, experience or life experience or training, or some of us to pay for school. Some people are joined to get through school. Like
Right.
whatever it is, right? The army does help people pay for school, all these things,
Right.
and then your unit gets called to go to war. Well, that's your job. Like, this is your job. The job asked you now to deploy. You you gotta go. And that's just, and then you don't think of the politics when you're over there. When you're there, you're not thinking about who's in office or who's not doing this or whatever. You're just thinking of, all right, how do I make it to lunch?
Yeah.
Like,
How do I get to the end of this day without
yes,
ending up in a body bag? Like this is
exactly.
funny. Yeah.
And the most important thing is like your brother next to you. There's nothing more important than the guy next to you. Like,
Yeah.
you could be married, you could love your mom, your dad, but the bonds that were created over there are the strongest bonds to this day that even to this day that I know of. There's I know more about my buddy's life over there than his girlfriend's gonna ever know about him, or his wife even knows about him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's times where you spend 8 to 12 hours on an observation point with this guy, and you have nothing but time to kill.
Yeah.
It's not like one shift. I'm talking like there's times where you're there for like 2, 3 weeks at a time. The same guy just talking, and all you do is talk about everything and anything. I mean, I know you know his favorite color. You know everything about this guy. It's
That's yeah.
the bond is, and then to experience all the tragedy with this person, good times, bad times, what the fuck times, like it's just the bond is it's too. You know when they say it's the brother in arms, it's real. They're not your blood brother, but that's your brother. This is the guy
The
like
family you've chosen. Yeah, that's it.
and then you just you guys you may fight here and there and argue. It happens. I mean, people argue, but that's your brother. At the end of the day, something happens to him or he needs you're gonna be there. You're just gonna be there. That's just what it is.
Right. Well, that's why military has such like a strong bond. When military guys suffer, other military guys come to their aid because they know what it's like. Like my grandfather was very much military. Like he was part of the Legion up until the day he died. Like he had guys who he served with, who he's still friends with. Like they never leave each other. Like once you've been through those experiences, that's it. Like you guys are connected for life, and there's no chance you guys are not going to be going through life together. Like this is your new family now.
Exactly. It's exactly that. You've literally cried together, like everything. I mean, like slept next to these guys every day. Like as weird as it sounds, seeing these guys naked. You see like everything. Like there's no privacy, man. There's times you go to the bathroom and you're just going out there and like there's guys next to you while you go in the bathroom. You're like, well,
you're like, all right, well, it smells, so
yeah,
sorry.
Exactly, right? But
what do you want me to do?
You're at war, so there's no like, well, you can privacy. No, this is what it is. You just do it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, the closeness, it's different. It's next level, and that's why even to this day, the guys I talk to still from my platoon. Once in a while, I try to get together with them. A lot of them are still in Quebec. It's hard to get with kids now, and getting free time is like
impossible.
Hard. But when we do it together, it's like as if we never left each other. It's crazy. Yeah. It's absolutely a crazy bond.
Well, it's definitely one of the blessings I think that comes out of such a unique experience like the military, for sure. Okay, well, I don't want to take any more of your time. I very much appreciate you taking the time out to talk and just share your experience with the military. And as long as I keep doing this, I'll have you back every Remembrance Day just to talk about the current state of how everything is and what's going on and everything like that. Thank you so much, Jamaal, for taking the time to talk. Appreciate you so much. Love you, brother. And yeah. Yep. So this has been Uncommon Sense Podcast with the man Jamaal. Thank you so much for listening, and you guys have a great Remembrance Day.